Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to this video about History GCSE AQA. This particular video is on the Elizabethan England topic, and it's very specific to the 2019 paper because we're focusing on the historical environment for this year, which is the Globe Theatre. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a potential question that could come up on the exam on the 6th of June. And if you're watching this video on the day that it's been uploaded, that's tomorrow. Okay, I'm recording this after a request from one of my students, Mishi. So if you enjoy this, then thank him, and also subscribe or like my channel and this video. So the Globe Theatre question, when this comes up on the 6th of June, we think, and this is just a think, okay, that it's going to be one of these four questions. So if you can see that there, okay, we think that it could be the main reason for building theatres such as the Globe was, and then you put a factor in, and then you may have to say how far does a study of the Globe Theatre support this. It could also be the main effect or change demonstrated by theatres such as the Globe was, and that might be, for example, rise of the gentry, or the growth of Elizabethan theatre, or you might say that it is increased wealth in society, or it could be the main reason for the success of the theatre, and again you'd have to analyse different factors and say which one you thought was the most important reason for the success of the theatre. And then a final possible one, although I think there's less evidence for this one, is the main reason for opposition to the theatre was, and then you could say whether that is religious opposition or opposition from the monarchy or opposition because of immoral behaviour. So it's going to be probably something like one of those four questions. You need to relate all your evidence to what you know about the Globe Theatre. In this video, we're going to go through the one that I've starred, which is the second one. The main effect or change demonstrated by theatres like the Globe is, and then it'll give you a factor. So this might be rise of the gentry or increased wealth in society. And then how far does the study of the Globe Theatre support this? So if you were doing this question, which is on the effects and change demonstrated by theatre, what you would start with is a very brief introduction. This is a 16-mark question, so you do need a short introduction. And you would outline what the Globe Theatre was, that it was built by the Burbages in the 1590s on the banks of the River Thames in Southwark, and it represented a change from the previous styles of theatres that were in existence. That previously theatres were not purpose-built. They were theatre was carried out in inns or taverns or in open streets, and this type of theatre was specifically designed for people to go and visit. You might also then explain that this occurred because of a higher education of people in society, and the gentry had grown in size and importance, and this reflected the characters that you see in the plays. So very short introduction. Then you get into the main part of the essay. I'm just going to go through some potential paragraphs that you could write in this essay about what was the main change that theatres like the Globe represented. Right, the first one is it represented a rise of the gentry, okay? And your evidence that the theatre showed a rise in the status of the gentry is that where people sat in the theatre, okay? The rows and the areas that people sat depended on their social status. So if you remember the gentry, you had the opportunity to sit in somewhere such as the Juliet's balcony, which was overlooking the stage. If you were slightly less wealthy, you might sit in one of the galleries. Or if you were a groundling, you might stand on the floor, okay, watching the theatre. But it was a clear representation of society, and the fact that gentry were more powerful allowed them to sit in the Juliet's balcony. Also, the gentry could invest in theatres and give patronage, and their lives were reflected in some of the plays that were performed at Globe, such as the character of Old Capulet in Romeo and Juliet. So the fact that they are being written into these plays as some of the characters shows how powerful they have become, because playwrights like William Shakespeare are trying to appeal to them as an audience, which means they now have power. A second argument is that theatres and the growth of theatre show that society had changed because of the Golden Age. And this is reflected in the fact that there were no rebellions due to poverty in the Elizabethan era. And if there's no rebellions, this means that people are able to enjoy themselves on leisure pursuits like going to the theatre, and also the theatre was affordable to everybody. Okay, the theatre offered something for everybody. That's a key phrase you need to remember. Money wasn't needed in wars to fight abroad, so they invested it in culture instead. So both of those bits of evidence, so wars not being fought means money to go to the theatre, and there's no rebellions, which means that theatre has a place to grow, are both important. You've got, as a third reason or a third sign of change, you have the fact that society was more educated. The higher society were more literate because of the invention of the printing press, and this allowed theatre and plays to be more widely distributed. This is a big change from what existed before, where plays didn't tend to be written down, they tend to be learned off by heart by people who would be recounting them from somebody else, and it'd be difficult to replicate that play from one place to another. Because you can now write them down and be printed, you could share and perform these plays in different locations. And the fact that more people were educated allowed it to be more accessible to wider audiences. There was something for everybody. A fourth effect or change demonstrated by the Globe Theatre are the culture and fashions of the time. It represents Renaissance culture, so Renaissance is rebirth of Greek and Roman ideas, and the architecture of the globe, the fact that it's circular in shape, or actually it's a 20-sided shape rather than a circle, which looks like a circle because it's so many different sides, is like a Roman Colosseum. And entertainment is represented in a Roman style. The first play to be performed at the Globe Theatre was Julius Caesar. And this shows the fact that plays and theatres like the Globe are representing Renaissance ideas. The fact that the first play was about a Roman leader. Theatre became more fashionable because actors performed for Elizabeth. So it reflects the culture and fashion of the time. You also see culture and fashion being represented by the audience who went to show off at the theatres. Members of the gentry would stand in the Juliet's balcony and show off the ruffs that they'd be wearing around their necks, representing the quickly changing fashions of the Elizabethan era. Another key change, and try and remember this one, is the fact that theatres were now purpose-built. This allowed playwrights to write and perform to a wider audience. And a fact for this is that 25,000 people visited the Globe Theatre in 1620. And it allowed something for everybody. Pit for the poor, gentry and nobility in the Juliet's balcony. You could also say and talk about a key change in that the theatre had to be rebuilt after being displaced from the original site in Shoreditch, and the famous story that James Burbage moved the theatre overnight during Christmas when the Puritans weren't watching and rebuilt it at Southwark outside the city walls to get around the rules that said that theatres couldn't be inside the city walls. Another key change, this links to another question that you could potentially have around opposition, is that theatres represented a change because of increased opposition to this style of entertainment. So you could say that opposition increased because Puritans thought plays were ungodly, caused disease and licentious behaviour, so that's immoral or behaviour, so rioting or drinking too much. And also you saw high levels of censorship. Elizabeth and the Privy Council feared rebellion. A certain play called The Isle of Dogs was censored because it was deemed to have been critical of the Queen. So those are some factors that you could argue led to increased change that the theatre brought about. In the conclusion, you would need to say, what is the most important change? Is it the one that's stated in the question, which might be, for example, increased education of society, or is it another one? And in that conclusion, just what you need to do is make a decision and try and link the factors together. So I might say that the main reason for change, or main effect, is purpose-built theatres, because without these purpose-built theatres being made, none of the other changes would have happened. So you wouldn't have an opportunity to show the rise of the gentry. You wouldn't have an opportunity for cultures and fashion to be demonstrated. That factor underpins all the others. And that's how I would go about answering this particular question. But like I said, there could be 3 other potentials. Could be around reasons for building theatres, could be around the main success of the theatre, and could be around opposition to the theatre. I think the final one is less likely. Okay. The important thing for this is you fit in lots of evidence about the Globe Theatre and relate it directly to the question. If it's talking about change, make sure you are referring to the change that theatre is represented. If it's talking about successes, talk about the success that theatre is represented. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching it on the 5th of June or even on the 6th of June, good luck with your history exam. To those students at Globe Academy, I know you're going to do absolutely fine and you're going to do really, really well tomorrow. If you're watching this and I'm a member of Globe Academy, good luck.